Moving on, ever since Raghuram Rajan made it clear that he had no intention of staying back at the Reserve Bank of India beyond the 3rd of September, there's been a raging debate on whether the then UPA government should have given him a straight 5-year term. And that's why precisely Lata Venkatesh asked the person who appointed Raghuram Rajan as the RBI governor, that's P. Chidambaram. Subbarau's, and she asked these questions at Subbarau's book launch called Who Moved My Interest Rate. Let's first hear out what P. Chidambaram had to say.
Formality, we were simply following a practice. Now, I won't say following a tradition, following a practice. But if that practice has led to a situation where it could be mischievously interrupted, I would be perfectly comfortable with appointing a governor for a fixed term of 5 years. I have no problem.
Governor should have a long enough tenure to understand the institution, understand the macroeconomy, understand the circumstances in which it's going to operate. Then time to set his own agenda or her own agenda, and time to implement that agenda. The question is, what is this reasonable time that allows for all this? Understanding, setting the agenda, and implementing that agenda. There could be different views on what that time frame is. But my own experience, and I believe that of most other former governors, is that 3 years is perhaps too short a period to allow for that understanding, laying out the agenda, and implementation. It could be 5 years, 6 years. But I believe that, in my own view, is that a 5-year non-renewable term is good. That would be sufficient to accomplish what I said needs to be done.
Well, Mr. Rai, your thoughts?
I would sincerely believe that past traditions or practices aside, it would be in the interest of the institution and the economy both if a fixed term is given. Secondly, for an assignment of the type of the governor to the central bank, to say that it will be 3 years and possibly an assessment of his functioning be made, and then it will be extended by 2 years, doesn't appear very, what should I say, appropriate, or, so I think it's better, maybe 4 years, maybe 5 years, maybe 6 years. There should be a fixity of tenure.
That's a very interesting debate. Lata is actually with us. Before, Lata, we ask you more about the Subbarao versus Chidambaram debate, I want to ask you, do you fear your weekend is going to get disrupted by the announcement of the next RBI governor? I mean, and if so, who are the likely candidates?
Yes, after staying up so late on Friday, watching the match, working on Saturday to discuss the next RBI governor appointment is the last thing you want, but that could well happen. It's just an announcement that is due in anytime in the next 2 weeks. Well, I believe the front runners still would be Dr. Subir Gokaran or Dr. Urjit Patel. Both of them have prior Reserve Bank experience, having been deputy governors. One would think that Urjit Patel, being the author of the Monetary Policy Framework and the Monetary Policy Committee and the Urjit Patel report on the Monetary Policy Framework, would ensure continuity. But Subir Gokaran also would be in continuity since he served as deputy governor just a couple of years ago. I think the market will look at Subir Gokaran as perhaps more easy on the liquidity stance and therefore more dovish, and Urjit Patel as probably more hawkish. But the others are still very much in the fray. Arvind Subramanian, the chief economic advisor, and Arvind Panagaria equally remain contenders. The bankers, Arundhati Bhattacharya perhaps is now seen as more likely to get an extension in SBI, but remains a candidate. And then, of course, the Economic Affairs Secretary, Shaktikanta Das, still remains in the running. He knows the government aspect of the inflation or the growth debate, very much a contender, as would be perhaps even KV Kamath, his name was circulated, and Kaushik Basu's name. So names are in the fray, but I would still think that Urjit Patel and Subir Gokaran would mean more continuity in the RBI.
Okay, Lata, let's see what the next 24 hours bring, whether the news comes this weekend itself or not. But just going back to the panel for a bit, what were the other highlights, according to you, in this Chidambaram versus Subbarao conversation?
Okay, to get back to the Chidambaram and Subbarao discussion, well, it was largely on the autonomy of the Reserve Bank. Perhaps that theme will play out less in the days to come because we have a monetary policy framework which tells the RBI what inflation target they should fight for or work towards, as well as a monetary policy committee that will be making decisions. So, you know, there'll be too many people to pressure. Maybe, therefore, the pressure will go down. But this discussion itself is interesting because Chidambaram maintained that he always gave autonomy to the Reserve Bank under Subbarao, but government has the right to criticize the Reserve Bank. And Subbarao's point was when criticism comes from the sovereign, it is not like any criticism. It's very big pressure. In any case, an interesting discussion.
The point is, autonomy does not mean beyond criticism. An institution can be autonomous, but that institution is subject, as any other institution, any other person, any other body, to criticism, as long as the criticism is bona fide, genuine criticism.
There was pressure from the government, but the implication that we had succumbed to the pressure is certainly wrong. Okay, whatever decisions were taken by the government, by the Reserve Bank. There was pressure, but there was no decision that was influenced by the pressure from the government. I just want to...
Fair point, sir. Yeah. But, you know, when there is so much pressure for you to bring the rate down from 8 to, 7.5, when actually there is a 2 percentage point difference between the repo rate and the inflation number. Would you have had the elbow room to raise rates?
When?
October 2012.
See, whatever I wanted to do,
you could have done.
I could have done. Okay, regardless of the government. As Mr. Chidambaram said, there is a point of view. That point of view was communicated. There was a price to pay for that, etc. But the point is to imply that any decision was deviated from the best professional judgment of the Reserve Bank because of the government's opinion is incorrect.
That they gave each other space. That's the point you're making.
No, space was taken by the Reserve Bank. Okay, right.
Okay, Mr. Rai, as an independent observer.
See, you must look at it like this. These are all professional institutions manned by professional people selected by the government. Okay, now once a government selects, the government expects them to perform the role which they are mandated to perform. I think you are in some way trying to drive a chink in the armor of the professional who occupies that position, that he is not exercising his independence. That's not fair, because whether it's not a question of anybody who's giving you space. There has to be healthy tension between the monetary authority and the fisc. One is looking for growth, the other is looking for inflation.